What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach Show. On the agenda today, Trayce Jackson-Davis. So the Raptors, it's about 1 or 2 hours before the trade deadline. And at this point, we've all figured that and heard the rumors that the Raptors weren't going to make any substantial deals before the trade deadline. But they did get their hands on 6'9" center Trayce Jackson-Davis. Just who is he, by the way? 57th pick of the 2023 NBA draft. He is also the son of Dale Davis. For those of you who are as old as me, I am 38 years old. You will remember one Dale Davis. He was a big, tough, bruising center. And I mean a big, strong, tough son of a gun. Okay, best days with the Indiana Pacers. If you were watching the NBA back then, like I was, you would know that that was one tough man in a basketball uniform. And this is his son. And so if he has even anything close to the amount of toughness that his old man had, this can be a really, really good thing. So I want to talk about how he has been thus far this season, some of his stats since being in the league, pros of his games, cons of his game, and why Jackson-Davis for Bobby Webster. Well, first of all, we're going to do a deep dive. I wouldn't say necessarily a deep dive. It'll be more surface level, but we will take a look at some of the numbers. How has he been this season for the Toronto Raptors? Let me get some numbers up here for you and we can discuss. Let me just share this screen. I believe I have two screens of stats. Let me make sure you guys are seeing the right one. I think this is the right one. All right, so as you can see, the numbers here this year with Trayce Jackson-Davis, 36 games played, 11.4 minutes, 4.2 points. He is giving you 3.1 rebounds, 58.8% field goal percentage. I mean, listen, this isn't going to be an hour-long podcast, especially when we're not looking at a guy who's going to be playing 25 or 30 minutes or anything like that, but he can give you some decent minutes at that backup 5 spot for, I'm assuming, around somewhere between 9 to 12 minutes a game. That's what I am assuming that he is going to play as soon as he puts on that Raptors uniform. Now, he is listed at 6'9", okay? And everybody's going to be talking about, oh man, the Raptors again, these 6'9" guys. Listen, okay, I get it. He's listed at 6'9", and it doesn't matter necessarily that he is 6'9", is that can he do the job of a center? Okay. Can he do what you want him to do for you? He's a big body. He is around 245 as it is stating here. Big, strong, not some lanky, scrawny 6'9" guy. Big, strong, girth, wide, has strength. Okay, that is important. 245 of muscle and strength. Now, you're looking at the numbers, 4.2 points, 3.1 rebounds. And listen, you're not asking him to be friggin' the Joker or something out there. You're asking him to do the bare basics. Okay? Guard, be able to defend, get rebounds, bang, set hard screens, run the floor, finish at the basket at an efficient rate. These are the things that you need him to do on a consistent basis. Because at some point, like I mentioned to you on the last podcast I did, Jakob Poeltl is practicing again. He is hopefully going to be in the lineup by next week, but if you don't see him by next week, then after the All-Star break. But what are some of the things that Trayce Jackson-Davis does well? Well, he can finish strong at the basket. serious lob pass threat. And the way that he jumps, you don't even necessarily have to throw the pass perfectly because he'll catch them. That's the good thing about him. He'll catch these passes because he can jump. I want to show you some highlights if I do have some, and you guys can take a look at him. I'm not really sure if you guys have had a chance to see him at all, but from watching what this guy can do in terms of just highlight reels, and don't make too much out of this. These really are just that, highlights. So don't think it's, anything like, wow. Like, no, these are just highlights. You can take a look at them while I'm talking about it. But serious lob threat, like I've mentioned. And you don't have to throw it perfect to the rim because he's just really athletic like that. And we have guys who can break the defense down and give him that ball in the dunker spot, which is going to be key, right? And so, like I mentioned, you're looking at his numbers, and they've actually regressed a little bit from years 1 and 2. And that can also happen to be with, Jimmy Butler comes in and, there's some shuffling of the pieces there a little bit. But at the same time, when you look at a guy like Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, it is pretty evident that he is not great at developing talent. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that, but I certainly have when it comes to Steve Kerr and, raising and growing talent. I don't think he's really built for that. He is more built for the win now type of teams. And so it's nice that a young guy like this can come over to the Toronto Raptors, get some burn on still a playoff team, but maybe you can mold him to your liking a little bit more. And one thing that's nice about it as well is Coach Jamamalalela is familiar with him because remember, he is coming back to the Raptors from the Golden State Warriors. And so he has a bit of a relationship already with this young man, Trayce Jackson-Davis. And so he can, he's intel, right? He can tell Darko Rajakovic and the other coaching staff and Bobby Webster a little bit more about this young man, not just on the basketball court, but, talk about his character as well. Because from everything that I have heard, he is a really, really nice young man, really respectable, coachable, was going to work hard. And that is something you definitely need for this team, like the Toronto Raptors, who has good camaraderie as a team and the vibes are good. That is going to be very important as well, right? And so when you look at Steve Kerr and the development, I don't know if you can really make anything of that, but I do want to see what he can become as a Toronto Raptor. And listen, like I mentioned, we're not asking him to do a whole bunch, but you got to be able to do some of the basics here if you want to be able to play here, because this is a playoff team. There are going to be big games. And in a couple months, the Raptors are looking like they are going to be in the playoffs. And how much you're going to depend on him at that point? Probably not very much, but he's going to be valuable now, like I mentioned, for that 9 to 12 minute range and helping the Raptors get some wins in that regular seed in the regular season so that they can keep their seeding well headed towards the end of the season. Now, the question I have is, why would the Warriors want to move on from him? He seems like, from all the things that I was reading, a lot of the comments from the fans in Golden State were pretty upset that they gave up on this young man already. Don't really know why. And you got him for just a second round pick. I mean, to me, that's a good catch for the Raptors if all you're giving up is a second round pick to get him. I'm not going to complain there, that's for sure, especially when you really needed that depth at the 5. I mean, it's a good get, I guess, so far, but we actually have to see what he's going to be able to do when he puts on the uniform. Now, let's look a bit more at some of his numbers because we do want to do a little bit of a comparison at least, right? And I have two different screens that I want to show you in regards to some of his numbers. Let's go back to the one that we were looking at previously And let's make it a big screen, actually. So we're looking at some of his numbers as a rookie. 68 games as a rookie, 16.6 minutes, 7.9 rebounds. Sorry, 7.9 points, excuse me, 5 rebounds. And he shot 70% from the field. 70% from the field. He actually led his rookie class in field goal percentage. His sophomore year, he ranked top 10 in offensive rebounds per 36 minutes at 4.5. But how will he look, and how do you think his numbers will be as a Toronto Raptor? Right? If you're looking at him in terms of his offensive production, there are some cons, though, that we have to speak about in regards to his offensive production, because they're kind of glaring a little bit, and you can't really just skip over it. But yes, his numbers do look decent in regards to field goal percentage and finishing around the basket, but there are definitely some cons that we have to speak about. I want to show you one more screen of something that I thought was really interesting here as well. I'm going to show you this screen here. Check this out. If you look at his games, okay? Look at his games here. 2025, 26. Look where he shoots the ball from. All of his shots, the large percentage of them, less than 5 feet at the basket, which we know. Within 5 to 9 feet, 10 field goals attempted. Nothing outside of 8, 9 feet. Look, less than 8 feet at the basket. That's where everything is. That's where everything is, because we're going to be talking about the pros and cons, and I'm going to start off with the cons. Why do I start off with the cons? Because when you acquire a player, draft a player, trade for a player, like I mentioned on the last player profile, you get guys based on what they can do, not based on what they cannot do. You get them based on what they can do. And that's why I go to the cons before I go to the pro, because you want to focus more based on what he can do compared to what he cannot do, right? So, cons of his game. Does not shoot the ball at all. And I'm talking about from anywhere on the floor. I just showed you the numbers outside of 8 feet, non-existent. Okay, so not from mid-range, not from three-point range. Not a good free throw shooter as well. I'm looking at his free throw shooting numbers in his first year, 56%, 57%, 55% currently this season. And so he just can't shoot the ball at all. I don't know too much about his mechanics. I've seen him shoot. They don't look completely broken at all or anything like that. So maybe he can improve there. And maybe after the season, I don't know how much they'll focus on it now, but after the season, if they will look to try to implement some type of jump shot and give this guy the ability to create for himself or stretch the floor even just a little bit, from mid-range. I mean, just anything, but maybe they'll work on that at some point. But the point is, cons of his game, he cannot shoot the ball a lick from absolutely anywhere. Has to be a better defensive rebounder. It's looking like if he gets some decent minutes, it's almost like his offensive rebounding numbers are that much closer to his defensive rebounding numbers, which is something you don't typically see. He's a very good offensive rebounder, but you need to see him equally as good when it comes to the defensive rebounding as well. Struggles finishing around the rim when he's not pounding it home with dunks. So when shots are contested, when he has to finish with agility or finesse around the basket, it seems like it can be a bit of an issue if he's not giving you a two-hand flush or a one-hand hammer around the basket. Mentioned to you, can't really create his own shot. lack of ball handling, but that's okay. He's really a big anyway. Anything you get from him in that regard is kind of just, you know, a bit of a bonus there. But I mean, yeah, he's here, like I mentioned, to do strictly the basics. What are the pros of his game? Now, before I even get into that, remember the last show that I did where I said, I really miss the Raptors having a hustle type player, just a guy who has loads of energy all the time, gets his teammates into it, gets the fans and the crowd into it as well with their energy. I wonder if Trayce Jackson-Davis can be that guy. I wonder if he can be that guy. Can he be that guy that brings that tenacious, infectious energy that his teammates and the crowd can rally behind? Can we feed off of it? Can he be that type of guy? I'm hoping he can be, but I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. And so, pros of his game: serious lob threat at the basket. This guy finishes strong in the paint. I mean, there's a very good chance that in that pick and roll or throwing up that lob, if you miss him for a second, and even if you don't, he's going to dunk on your head. Like, he's going to give a monster two-hand slam all over you. And I mentioned to you before, the way this guy jumps, and listen, his double jump, his second jump is legit. He is quick off of his feet. Sets good, hard screens, good in the pick and roll, and he rolls with a purpose. When he rolls and you give him that ball, you throw up the lob to him, or even if you just drop it into him, he's going up to finish strong. He is rolling with a purpose. And when he catches the ball and he's going to the basket, he ain't there to be timid or soft. He is going to finish and finish strong. Physical, like I mentioned, 245. We're looking for him to bang. Okay, we need him to be aggressive. Physicality matters here. You got to be able to push guys around. You got to be able to bump. Okay, bump, bruise, hard fouls if need be. You got to be able to provide that for this team. Aggressive on both ends. Well, I talked to you about him being a brute force finishing at the basket. Now, from a defensive standpoint, you got to use that size and girth to bang with these other bigs around the league, especially how all these damn Eastern Conference teams are shoring up with that big men present that they have. You got to be able to provide something for us with or without Jakob Poeltl in the lineup. Okay? Contest shots. He can block shots and alter shots. Good hands. He doesn't seem to drop a lot of passes. Finishing might be more of an issue, but he doesn't seem to have big, clumsy hands. He doesn't seem to drop a lot of passes, and that is a good thing as well. Now, like I mentioned to you, got to be able to guard fives. You got to be able to use the fundamentals, turn around, box guys out, stay low, put them on your back, go up, grab those hard rebounds with your elbows out, pivot, throw that damn outlet pass, and run the floor. Okay, now he is a lefty as well, hoping that throws defenders off a little bit. It typically does here and there. Just thought that I would throw that in there. But he can do some damage, hopefully, in some limited minutes. Okay? Catches dunks off of his vertical leap. Like I mentioned, runs the floor hard. But the other thing you got to take into consideration is upside. What is his upside compared to some of the other options that the Raptors may have had? Now, shooting may come at some point. Don't think that's something you're really going to have to focus on right now. Coachability is one thing that you have to look at. And I mentioned to you, Jamamala will know a bit about that and give the intel on him to the rest of the coaching staff. I think he's somebody who could be valuable going forward. I want to wait and see. But when you look at what Quickly can do breaking down the defense, Ingram, and especially a guy and a phenomenal passer like one Scotty Barnes, he is a guy that you can plug in there for that 10 or 12 minutes and give you some type of impact. Now, I told you, it ain't going to be a long podcast because he ain't going to be out there playing 30 minutes a game. This is a very basic breakdown. The Raptors will be in action on Sunday. I'm assuming he may play in that game. I don't know if he will. They might want him to get a practice in and learn the offense and that kind of stuff already. I don't know if they'll throw him in there by Sunday, but maybe they will. But overall, Trayce Jackson-Davis is somebody that I'm at least happy we went out and got. And I know a lot of people are probably pissed with Bobby Webster and this whole big man thing and what happened or lack of what happened at the trade deadline. But I wouldn't look too much into this as a bad thing, not really getting rid of anyone and adding a Trayce Jackson-Davis. If you're going to do serious moves, you're probably going to do it in the offseason. You're not going to mess up anything that the Raptors have right now or possibly make it worse by moving somebody and acquiring somebody that doesn't really move the needle and adding on draft picks as well to do it. It just wouldn't have made any sense. You stand pat right now, add Trayce Jackson-Davis. Hopefully Jakob Poeltl comes back healthy and can give you some decent minutes after a couple weeks and is playing well, healthy, moving well, finishing around the basket, blocking shots, clogging up the paint, doing all that kind of stuff, and see where the chips fall. The Raptors got to continue to win the games they got to win. And you got to start beating some of these better teams at the top of the Eastern Conference and West as well, but more focused on the Eastern Conference. Because the real evaluation, as we all know, when it comes to this Toronto Raptors team, is what they do in the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, we're not expecting these guys to do damage in the playoffs. I'm not even expecting them to come out of the first round, to be completely honest with you. I expect them to be in the playoffs. Maybe work their ass off and give a battle to whoever they're playing in that first round. But the Raptors are ahead of schedule here. And so we're all paying attention to each and every one of these guys and what they bring to the table. Trayce Jackson-Davis is a role player that will come into a team who is competing for playoff contention right now, and hopefully he can add a little bit to what we already have with this roster and make somewhat of an impact. At Mike Roach 7 on IG, at Mike Roach 23 on X. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share the show. Questions, comments, concerns? Obviously, no right or wrong in this podcast with anything, just sharing information and the thought of what it was like to have this young man join the lineup. Let me know what you think. Was this a good deal? Not necessary? What do you think his impact will be? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments. I will get back to you as fast as I possibly can. This is the Mike Roach Show, and on Sunday, I'll see you post-game. Toronto Raptors and the Indiana Pacers. I'll be doing that very quickly because, as you all know, we got a Super Bowl to watch on Sunday. And so I will see you then. This is the Mike Roach Show. See you again soon. I'm out.